So one day I was perusing through my analytics page on my channel, and I had seen that a majority of my views came from external sources outside of YouTube. Upon finding this, I looked deeper to find out what external sources are linking to me. Well, the main one is Google searching, people most likely trying to find solutions about how to fix the leveling on the Ender 3 V3 SE, typically. But the second and fourth highest ratings in this section are Thingiverse.com and Printables.com. Now this seemed pretty wild to me. These links give a small but nice little boost to views. So I looked up Bozeman 12 Thingiverse and Bozeman 12 Printables in Google. The first thing I found was a person who shared the G-code file from my videos about manually leveling the Ender 3 V3 SE on both Thingiverse and Printables, which I have no problem with. I didn't make the model in the first place, and he linked to my video, obviously, so that all kind of worked out and was cool to see, honestly. Something else that's cool to see is that I already have a huge hater nemesis. While conducting the Printables search, I found this model, the Bozeman 12 Extra Special Guitar Pick by 3Doxel. Now, on the surface, this may seem like a nice gesture until you hear the context behind it. So, let's get into that. First of all, I have a script right down there, so sorry if I don't make eye contact with you as much as I should. But I wanted to formulate my words because I can get scatterbrained sometimes and not really say the proper things, the proper points that I want to get out when I don't have a script, which is kind of what's happening now. All this started because I made a video talking about an issue with Prusa, Bamboo, and Orca Slicer, since they all are based on each other or were made from each other. I had went to a few forums about the issue and made posts about it, but got nothing from any of them. I went to Bamboo support even for this issue, and they basically said that it was my fault from a CAD design standpoint, which, knowing what I do now, was completely dumb and not even close to what the actual issue was. So I made a video about that issue, and within the first day of the video being posted, a few suggestions had been made and the issue had been worked around, although not entirely fixed. The solutions work for that situation, but certainly not all scenarios. Either way, I got a few people who didn't like that I made a video about this issue, or didn't like it because I didn't know how to fix it myself. And I assume this person is one of those people in particular. I thought I was past this after their original comment, so I didn't keep the comment email. The email was the only way to view the comment in reality, because it got immediately auto-moderated by YouTube and taken off the comment board immediately. Simply because of how rude this individual was. But essentially the guy called me stupid for not knowing how to fix the issue, saying it's disingenuous to still have the video up and that I hadn't immediately made an update video stating the solutions shown. And despite all that, I think that I had an updated pinned comment at the time, and he even said that he found my exact example model on Printables and he fixed my issue easily, or something close to that. He boasts and tries to be all big-dicked about it, basically, and he says things like, I can even take his model and sell it, he does not care, something like that. Now, the reason why he's saying at least those last few things, was because of a small statement I made in that video talking about the guitar pick model that I used in the video. I had designed it, I liked it, and I want to sell it sometime in the future so I can try and get some funding to start a small music equipment business. So I said please don't copy the pick and sell it before I can even get a chance to get it on the market in the first place. This guy didn't like that apparently, and was just looking for trouble in general. The first thing that really discredits this guy's peacocking is that he didn't say anything about where to get his code in the first place, or, his files in general. I had no idea for a long time that he even actually provided anything to the world other than being a pure jackass. I could have inferred that he uploaded to Printables, but I didn't exactly want to sit there and analyze a dickhead's comment who doesn't appreciate people trying to help other people by presenting an issue that I couldn't find a solution to. And I ended up looking to other means to fix it, and he didn't like it. I can't know for sure since I don't have the comment anymore, but I do think that the usernames were different. So the main calling card that correlates these posts is the out-of-place use of the word restarted. The only way I can see this fitting into the comment from what I remember and the significance of it being on this pick model is that the guy is just a piece of shit that wants to call me retarded but also have probable deniability for having done so that he doesn't get banned or reported or any of that garbage. So yeah, he's super clever. But other than general rudeness, there's something else that I wanted to draw attention to, which is that he's actually a moron who doesn't even seem to know what he's talking about in the world of guitar picks and missing crucial components from his solution in the first place. Let's start from the start. My pick is this one. The issues stemmed from having the number on the top and the inset logo on the bottom. These actually create two separate issues, but both of them result in a less durable pick. So you may be like this guy and say something like, well, just remove the number and logo. There's two problems with that. The number represents the thickness of guitar pick. It's hard to print legible small text on this model using the 3D printer, and I don't want to use different colors to represent the thicknesses. One, because of the simple waste of filament during color changes on the Bambu Labs P1P, and two, because I like the paint color, because it will typically stand out against most surfaces and is generally a vibrant color. So if you drop the pick, there is hopefully a higher chance of finding it and recovering it rather than dropping it and it just being lost to time. The logo is simply for brand awareness. I am trying to start a small business, so even though the logo isn't perfectly printed when 3D printed, this small especially, it gives a general good idea of who it's by so that hopefully there can be some more direct association between the picks and my brand, and so people can hopefully remember that, since no one knows my brand in the first place, especially since I'm just starting out. I looked for good ways to print this info on the picks using actual printing methods, not 3D printing, like inkjet printing, screen printing, UV printing, and so on, but there just really isn't one in my scenario right now. There's a method shown, I think, by Teaching Tech that got close using inkjet, laser, and ink tank based printers, but it still just wasn't feasible for me. So these are the important but also problematic areas of the pick that result in the whole premise of that video. So here is the solution presented by the hater douchebag. First of all, this guy put no effort into being the asshole he actually is, because he doesn't ever say the slicing changes that he made to get to the final model, which is the main important thing out of all of this existing. He uploaded the G-code and the model, but neither of those really helped figure out what he actually did, and the number intrusion issue is still present when importing this model into Bambu Studio, mainly because this is a slicer issue, and I'm not reinstalling Prusa Slicer because I have no reason to use it in my personal uses. So yeah, that's his first mistake, though it's not like I needed it because there are more decent people who actually helped solve the issue instead of just simply being part of it. So his next problem is that he has text on the top of the model and nothing on the bottom. It's just flat. Now, I actually frequently put inset text on the bottom layer of my functional models while 3D printing. Usually the side effects of the slicers don't really matter for the majority of models, but this one of course does. So he just completely skipped over that problem, which makes his whole argument irrelevant to me. The third issue with his group of statements is the one about me stealing the pick model and calling it my own and original. First of all, I even said in the original video that there may be a more boutique company making this shape of guitar pick, but I was/am still unsure because I only vaguely remember seeing them deep into a Amazon search. Secondly, I had only ever looked at printables like once or twice before he even made his comment. The only thing I remember looking at printables for was Prusa's 3D printed guitar body project and a model made for the Ender 3 V3 SE to get the print head's axis perfectly level. So this guy had no way of knowing that, and obviously I can't really prove it, but I have further arguments to make, so you'll just have to take my word for it for now. Additionally, I do have CAD files in FreeCAD and Fusion 360, including the sketches and all. I redesigned and remade the pick model in Fusion after moving to it from FreeCAD. So next up is the fact that the original model this idiot remixed his model from is literally the most basic and classic pick shape. Notice the difference in curves and how pointed the corners are comparatively. The pointed tip on my model can actually make a small but noticeable difference to the sound of the attack on the guitar strings as you play compared to some average picks. this probably wouldn't be noticeable to the average listener, but to the crazy guitar people like me, it can make a difference. So after that, I actually found other models on printables that were actually closer to my model. What this frickin' fool who's trying to chew me up doesn't understand is that when picking a guitar pick to play with, there are many subtle, but sometimes obvious nuances that can make a difference in how the feel of a guitar pick plays, and how it melds with you, your personality sometimes, and most importantly, your playing style. Many picks are very similar to each other, only making slight deviations from the core shape and concepts of the original basic picks. The original model our nemesis here based his model off of is actually a great example of the core pick shape that is very basic. It closely replicates a basic Dunlop Tortex pick, minus the curves on the edges, most likely due to it often being difficult to print curves that small. But this one would also probably have a louder and more abrasive pick slide ability, which may be desirable to some players. So since the edges are the main difference of the models our cool friend picked out, I picked out some better models that he could have cited to be even a smidgen bit credible. I will save the closest example for after, but the second model that I found was this one. I'll put up a screenshot of the page so you can see the user's name and model name, but I don't have that info on hand. This pick has the same general idea of my pick, but the obvious difference is the hex grip. Now, it probably wouldn't be hard for me to fill in the grip holes, but what would be significantly more annoying to change would be the wideness of the pick. This thing is like a perfect mini Dorito chip, almost looking like a bloated triangle. It is very close to mine, but the top corners stick out a little more, and my pick has a little more bulge on the topside grip area of it. So I may have fell for the uneducated lie of accusing me of stealing the model if you use something like this, but you didn't. So you're freaking dumb. Now let's move on to the original model that I found that looks almost exact to mine, which is this model. I thought that this was actually the model that the hater was talking about since he didn't provide any links in his epic of a miserable comment. Now this one has almost the exact same profile as my pick, but with the original creator's logo or something like that imprinted on the top. Now this would have been a great smoking gun for my hater here if he had used this example, but he didn't. So I could have filled in the guy's logo and made it my own, but the other issue is I didn't realize how small this model was going to be. I didn't pay any attention to the dimensions, and I didn't have another model next to it to compare its size to, but for some reason the base size that the file comes with is really small. I don't know if this was intentional, because I could see certain guitarists liking the micro size, but yeah, it's a little shrimpy compared to average picks. But I also could have sized up the model to get to my model, however there is still one more small difference, which again are the corners. Mine are still a small bit more angular. I'm not sure if there'll be much difference tonally, but the main point here is that I didn't steal the model. I may have been able to make the corners more angular if I imported the original model into Tinkercad, filled the logo, sized up the model, imported the model into Fusion from Tinkercad to get more micro control over the model. I could have projected the profile of the pick and made cuts or extrusions to make them more angular, then put the sketches for the number and import the SVG of my logo onto the pick and made those extrusions and cuts, but the fact is that I just didn't. So there's some subtle Fusion pro tips for you, but I'm sure this video's gone on long enough already. The real story of how the pick was made and how I got my shape is that I was trying to replicate the real pick that I was actually using at the time, which was the Ibanez Wizard Grip pick. Those picks again have the basic pick shape for the most part, but are special because they have a sandpaper-like coating on the grip area of the picks to try to prevent dropping the pick while playing. I didn't know about inserting canvases into Fusion at the time, because I think that this was closer to the time that I started using Fusion, which also discredits all of those tips that I said earlier. But I also just think that I didn't want to. I wanted the shape to be somewhat authentic, and I think that's why I didn't do it. I think I wanted the shape to be a little more authentic and, unique, personally designed, despite what people may think or may want to think. But that's all I can tell you for that. The problem with not using the canvas is that I didn't and still don't really have a way to measure and reproduce the hybrid kind of curves of the average pick. The curves are very complex. And even at my current level right now, without just tracing it on a canvas, I don't think that I would be able to, I don't even know how you'd measure those curves to get it exactly correct. So the only thing I could do was take 3 basic measurements: the tips of the side axes and the playing tip and grip edge of the vertical axis. And I decided where to place those by trying to roughly measure where the shallow side of the side curves end based on the vertical axis, and thusly where the steep curve starts. From there, I connected the points with curves. I believe they were simple 3-point curves. Obviously, it wasn't a spline, because then that would make better curves, especially if I made the spline go all the way around. But it's also been a really long time since I actually did that. It's been a long time in the making trying to get this project up and running, so I really don't remember the exact tool of curve that I used to create it. But essentially the rest is history. My first revision turned out only vaguely like how I intended it to be, but I printed it anyway, and I started playing with it, and I ended up loving the shape. So my first revision became essentially my final revision, and all of that is to explain, yes, I personally made the model. And this guy is essentially a fool who knows nothing about the accusations he's making. Who's restarted now, huh, fuckface? Additionally, if you, the person I made this video around, are watching this video, know this: your actions, even online, have consequences. I suffer from major depression, but manage it very well. But you are certainly of no help to that fact. I don't need the bit of stress that you produce. And people like you just generally make the world a worse and more unhelpful, generally shitty place. So if you aren't willing to make a change and at least be a basic productive human being, just shoot yourself. Sorry, but that's the kind of abrasive humor I don't get to express very often. Here's another one for you. Based on how this guy acts online, he seems like one of those kinds of assholes who kills himself by driving into oncoming traffic. Not only ending his life for his personal reasons, but also ending or severely impacting the life of another or who knows how many other people. Sorry if that got too dark, but that's just the kind of humor I have that I don't get to express too often. But I felt like it applied here. Anyway, if you're a normal and not shitty viewer, I'm sorry, but this guy just needed to be put in his place after finding out that he wants to further publicly diss me than he already tried to do. Consider this my clapback diss track, I guess. Leave a like if you agree with me and my stance, which is basically, even though I'm a nobody, I'm certainly not a fraud. At least not yet, if I ever became one. If you want to see more content about 3D CAD design, using 3D printers, and hopefully fixing problems with them like the video that this all stemmed from was about, as well as videos talking about guitar, drum, and bass guitar gear, and sometimes subjects around those, and just generally whatever I want sometimes, if any of those sound good to you, then please consider subscribing. I don't make a regular income right now, so please look in the description for ways you can support me and also usually get something out of it. If you use the affiliate links, don't forget to uninstall the Honey extension since it makes its money by stealing those commissions from people like me. That's all I have to say for now, so I'm gonna say bye-bye.